All right, 16 minutes past 12. Jed's on now. Hi, Jed.
Hi, I'd like to comment about Ewan Watterson's appearance on the show yesterday, if that's okay. Yeah, as we know, Ewan is a very effective politician. He's been in office since, I think it's around 2006, one of the longest-serving MHKs. In fact, he had the biggest vote on the island. I think he scores, 2,000 to 3,000 votes, which is quite significant. And he's an accountant as well, very astute, I know that. Now, yesterday, he was talking about the Isle of Man has been running at a loss for over a decade. And he mentioned that last year there were £150 million in deficit. And what he alluded to was the lack of financial information available. I think he referred to it as the little blue book, or the pale blue book. And he's not been able to access that, say, for 2 years. He said the last time it's published in 2021. So when you add all this up together, you've got to start to think, who is actually running the Isle of Man?
He did say he's very frustrated by all this.
But he's an elected representative with a huge majority. He's been in for a long time. And the last few weeks, he's been quite informative, really, with his rhetoric. And he's almost taken what I would say is an anti-government stance, in that he's revealing the truth. And I think if the listeners can just reflect on this, that, this is going on under his nose, and he's a qualified accountant. And if he can't access the salient information for his decision-making, for the decision-making of the people around him, I think we've got a serious problem on our hands.
When the last election was being held a couple of years ago, one word kept coming up all the time, Jed, and it was transparency. Everybody wanted transparency for government. People wanted to know what was happening. And the fact that, our financial position is not rosy. I mean, we're not in deep trouble, but it is not rosy, and we're not contributing to reserves anymore. We've been drawing on reserves. So I suppose government will say, well, look, we say this all the time. Certainly when Dr. Allinson was on Mannin line a while back, he said it. He said we're drawing on reserves, and we'll continue to until the economy can be balanced. So the information is there. What particular information do you think that we actually need to know, Jed?
I'd like someone like Ewan to appear on, say, a YouTube video and just give a financial projection. He's probably the most qualified person in the House to do that, and to give some reassurance to the people living on the island. Because at the moment, we're anticipating that we want 15,000 extra residents here. And I don't know if you listened to the committee where one of the representatives from the Department of Infrastructure was unable to give any sense of any plan about how the waste management for these extra 15,000 people is going to be accommodated. And it's little snippets that when you listen here and there, you start to scratch your head and think, my God, what is actually going on? This is a bit of a circus. So the likes of, say, Ewan, maybe you could ask him to come back and let's have some facts and figures, because there's a lot of conjecture about, and that creates uncertainty. And that doesn't inspire confidence. If you're interested in doing business or moving to the Isle of Man, I think it's absolutely a priority to achieve this.
I mean, do you think that the current crop of Keys and Ledgco politicians are capable of handling this? I only say that because we've had non-stop growth. I mean, the Isle of Man kind of hit rock bottom in 1984. The government system changed. Mr. Miles Walker's administration came in, and we had politicians with backs to the wall. We knew we were in trouble then, but then came the years of plenty. And do you think that the current day politicians realise that times aren't what they used to be?
I think sometimes, I'll have a conversation with a politician and some are in touch and some are out of touch. But what I can say, we've got an island that has full employment. We have got increase in certain sectors of the economy, and we look at e-gaming and we look at the construction, say, that's on Victoria Road, and it's anticipated that we're going to have 200 jobs and so forth. But on the flip side, we've got an island that's got a huge shortage of housing for young people, and that could be regulated by controlling the rental market a little more strictly in how we build houses and so forth. But we've talked that one to death. But what I'm saying is that there doesn't seem to be anyone standing up and actually going, hang on a minute here, we need to get serious income coming in by numerous streams. So even, on my level, the tourism side of things, you just have your head in your hands at some times and think, gosh, we could be capitalising on the winter market, but we choose not to. We're chasing certain sectors that maybe aren't as successful as others for generating revenue and so forth. And things just seem a little bit disconnected. But I'd advise anyone to listen to Duan on the Listen Again facility on your website, really, about, his portrayal of the Isle finances, for sure.
And also, I mean, he and Michelle Haywood talked quite forthright terms about the state, just something basic like Port St Mary High Street, and the fact that and the fact that they, as he said, they had a very robust exchange of views, and still it hasn't been done.
You've hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad you've opened this one up, because this is a stretch of road that's about 150 yards long. And it's been knackered, it's been broken for years and years. And we've got the local commissioners and the local MHKs who will have been badgering the relevant departments, and still nothing happens. And you've got the most obvious piece of road in the south that needs attention. And yet you can look up Aracy and, oh, look, we're relaying a new surface up there. And you think, well, where do the priorities lie? I understand that it's a big project, but when your local MHKs who are fighting for your businesses and fighting for your residents are unable to facilitate such a simple measure, 150 yards of road, it just shows, you've got to scratch your head and ask yourself, who's running this place?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chet. Have a good weekend.